Something happened yesterday that made me stop everything I was doing and really think about the trajectory of this franchise. I was looking at the latest draft projections for 2026, and I noticed a pattern emerging across the league that could fundamentally change how we build this defense moving forward. Teams are making aggressive moves, prioritizing specific positions in ways we haven't seen in years, and right in the middle of all that chaos, there's a decision that could define the next chapter of Chicago Bears football. Welcome to Bears News Fan Report, where you get the real story, the insider analysis, and everything happening with our beloved Bears. This is your home for breaking updates, draft insights, and the kind of honest conversation that only true fans can have about where we're heading. Let me paint you the complete picture here, because understanding what's happening across the entire league is essential before we dive into what this means specifically for us in Chicago. The 2026 NFL Draft is shaping up to be one of the most quarterback-heavy classes we've seen in recent memory, with teams at the top making bold moves to secure their franchise signal callers. The Jets are trading up to number 1 for Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. The Raiders are taking Dante Moore from Oregon at 2, and suddenly we're watching a domino effect that's going to impact every single team picking after them. But here's what caught my attention, and this is where Bears fans need to pay close attention. While everyone's focused on quarterbacks, there's a secondary market happening simultaneously that's just as important, maybe even more important for teams like us that already have our quarterback situation figured out. Edge rushers are flying off the board at a rate that tells you everything you need to know about how the league values pass rush in today's NFL. Washington's taking Ruben Bain Jr. out of Miami at 8, Cincinnati's grabbing David Bailey from Texas Tech at 9, Miami's selecting Keldrick Faulk from Auburn at 13, Carolina's picking up Cassius Howell from Texas A&M at 16. That's 4 explosive edge defenders gone in the span of 9 picks, and we're not even halfway through the first round yet. This isn't a coincidence. This is teams recognizing that you cannot compete in January without players who can get after the quarterback consistently. The league has evolved to a point where if you don't have multiple guys who can win one-on-one matchups off the edge, you're going to get picked apart by the elite passers who dominate this league. Now let's talk about our situation specifically, because this is where things get really interesting for Bears fans. We've made significant strides on defense over the past couple of seasons, but if I'm being completely honest with you, our pass rush has been inconsistent at best. We've had moments where we've generated pressure, we've had games where we've disrupted opposing quarterbacks, but we haven't had that sustained, week in, week out dominance from the edge that championship defenses require. Look at the teams that made deep playoff runs last year. What did they all have in common? Multiple dynamic pass rushers who could take over games, who could create havoc in critical third down situations, who could force quarterbacks into mistakes when it mattered most. That's what we're missing, and that's exactly what this draft class could provide. The beauty of this particular draft is the depth at the edge rusher position. We're not just talking about 2 or 3 elite prospects, we're talking about legitimate NFL-caliber pass rushers available throughout the entire first round and into the second. Teams that need help off the edge are going to have options, and for a franchise like ours picking in the back half of the first round, that's actually great news. We don't need to reach for a player who's not quite ready. We don't need to force a pick just because of positional need. We can sit back, let the board come to us, and still land a player with tremendous upside who can contribute immediately to what we're building here in Chicago. Let me give you some context on what other teams in similar positions are doing, because this helps frame our decision-making process. Dallas, picking at 14, goes with Sonny Styles from Ohio State, a versatile linebacker who can play multiple roles. That tells you they're prioritizing flexibility and intelligence over raw athleticism. But then Dallas comes back around at 23, and this is where it gets fascinating. They're using a pick acquired from Green Bay to double dip on pass rush, selecting T.J. Parker out of Clemson. Parker is exactly the type of explosive athletic edge defender that teams covet in today's NFL. He's got the burst off the line, he's got the bend around the corner, and most importantly, he's got the developmental upside that makes him worth a first-round investment, even if he's not a day-one starter. Dallas is sending a clear message with that pick. They understand that you can never have too many guys who can pressure the quarterback, and they're willing to use premium draft capital to stockpile that talent. This brings us to where the Bears sit in this entire equation, and I want you to really think about the strategic implications here. We're picking at 25, right in that sweet spot where impact players are still available, but you're not paying the premium price of a top 10 selection. We've got flexibility, we've got options, and we've got a coaching staff that has shown they can develop young defensive players into legitimate contributors. The question isn't whether we need to address the pass rush. The question is which player gives us the best combination of immediate impact and long-term potential. And when you look at who's still on the board when we're picking, when you analyze the tape, when you consider our defensive scheme and what we ask our edge rushers to do, there's one name that keeps jumping off the page. Think about what we need from our edge rushers in this system. We need length to set the edge against the run. We need athleticism to convert speed to power around the corner. We need versatility to drop into coverage occasionally. And we need the kind of relentless motor that wears down offensive tackles over 4 quarters. We need someone who might not be the most polished product coming out of college, but has the physical tools and work ethic to develop into a legitimate every-down player. And most importantly, we need someone who fits the culture that we're building here, someone who's going to come in hungry, willing to learn, eager to prove everyone wrong who passed on them in the draft. The player I'm about to tell you about checks every single one of those boxes. When I first watched his tape, the thing that jumped out immediately was the length. He's got arms that seem to go on forever, and in the trenches, that's a massive advantage. Offensive tackles can't get into his body, they can't establish leverage, and he's able to keep them at bay while he works his pass rush moves. But what really impressed me was the development I saw from his junior to senior year. This isn't a player who's peaked. This is a player who's still figuring out how good he can be, and that trajectory is exactly what you want to see in a first-round pick. The technique improved, the pad level got lower, the hand usage became more refined. That tells you he's coachable, that tells you he's serious about his craft, and that tells you there's still another level he can reach with NFL coaching and training. Here's where we get to the heart of what this pick means for the Bears. At 25 overall, the Chicago Bears select Romello Height, edge defender out of Texas Tech. And before anyone starts overreacting or questioning the pick, let me explain exactly why this makes so much sense for what we're trying to accomplish. Height isn't the sexy pick that's going to dominate headlines. He's not the player casual fans are going to immediately recognize, but he's exactly the type of developmental prospect that turns into a cornerstone defender when you give him the right coaching and opportunity. At 6'5" with elite length and a frame that can easily add more good weight, Height has the physical prototype that NFL teams drool over. He's coming from a Texas Tech program that's produced legitimate NFL talent on the defensive line. And the tape shows a player who got better every single year he was on campus. Let's talk about fit, because that's ultimately what matters most. Height's best trait is his ability to disrupt the pocket even when he's not getting home with sacks. He's constantly affecting the quarterback's vision, forcing him to climb the pocket, making him uncomfortable. In our defensive scheme, where we're trying to create confusion and force quick decisions, having an edge rusher who can collapse the pocket from the outside while our interior rushers push up the middle creates exactly the kind of chaos that leads to turnovers. And here's something that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but is absolutely crucial for a team like ours. Height is an exceptional run defender. He sets a strong edge, he doesn't get washed out of plays, and he's disciplined enough to maintain his gap integrity even when offensive coordinators try to scheme him out of position. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. We passed on some bigger names. We could have gone in a different direction. Maybe we should have addressed another position. But let me tell you why I'm genuinely excited about this selection. First, the value is tremendous. Getting an edge rusher with Height's physical tools and upside at pick 25 is excellent draft capital management. Teams were taking edge defenders throughout the entire first round, and we still managed to land a player who could develop into a starter. Second, this fits our timeline perfectly. We're not in win now or bust mode. We're building something sustainable here in Chicago. Taking a player who might need a year to develop but has legitimate Pro Bowl upside down the road makes sense for where we are as a franchise. And third, this shows confidence in our coaching staff's ability to develop players. We're not just drafting on name recognition. We're drafting on traits and trusting our coaches to maximize that potential. Think about what this means for our defensive rotation next season. We can bring Height along slowly, use him in obvious passing situations at first, let him learn from the veterans we have on the roster, and gradually increase his responsibilities as he proves he's ready. There's no pressure to throw him into the fire immediately, no expectation that he needs to be a double-digit sack guy as a rookie. That developmental runway is actually a luxury that will benefit both the player and the organization long-term. By year 2, I fully expect Height to be a consistent contributor. By year 3, he should be pushing for double-digit sacks and Pro Bowl consideration. That's the kind of arc you want to see from a late first-round pick at a premium position. Let me give you some statistical context that supports this selection. Texas Tech's defensive front improved significantly during Height's time on campus, and he was a major reason why. His tackle numbers increased each season. His quarterback pressures went up dramatically, and most tellingly, offensive coordinators started game planning specifically to neutralize him. That's the ultimate compliment for a college defender. When opposing coaches are scheming around you, spending extra resources to slow you down, that tells you everything about how much they respect your ability. Those are the kind of players who succeed at the next level because they've already seen every trick, every scheme, every adjustment that teams throw at them. Here's what I'm most excited about from a scheme perspective. Our defensive coordinator loves to move guys around, create confusion about where the pressure's coming from, and keep offensive lines guessing. Height's length and athleticism make him perfect for that system. He can align in multiple spots along the defensive front. He can stand up as an outside linebacker in certain packages, and he's got the football IQ to handle complex assignments. That versatility is going to make him incredibly valuable even before he fully develops as a pure pass rusher. And as he gets more comfortable with NFL speed and NFL techniques, watch out. The ceiling here is legitimately elite. I also want to address the elephant in the room. Yes, Dallas took T.J. Parker from Clemson 2 picks before us at 23. Parker's a good player. He's got exciting traits, and I'm sure Cowboys fans are thrilled with that selection. But I genuinely believe Height is a better fit for what we need in Chicago. Parker might have more name recognition, he might generate more social media buzz, but Height's combination of size, length, and developmental upside is exactly what you want when you're building a defense that can compete for championships over multiple years. Sometimes the best pick isn't the flashiest pick, and I think this is one of those cases where we'll look back in 3 years and realize we got the better value. So what does this mean for Bears fans moving forward? It means we're serious about building a defense that can match up with the elite offenses in this league. It means we're not settling for mediocrity off the edge. We're investing in players who can develop into legitimate difference makers. It means our coaching staff has a clear vision for how they want to attack quarterbacks, and they're acquiring the personnel to execute that vision. And most importantly, it means we're building something sustainable here, something that can compete year after year, rather than chasing quick fixes that might work for one season but fall apart after that. I'm genuinely optimistic about where this franchise is heading. We've got our quarterback, we've got offensive playmakers, We've got a defensive foundation that's improving every season, and now we're adding another piece to the pass rush puzzle with Romello Height. This is how championship rosters are built, one smart decision at a time, one developmental prospect at a time, one strategic pick at a time. And I truly believe that when we look back at the 2026 draft in a few years, this is going to be remembered as the moment we found a core piece of our defensive front that helped take us to the next level. What do you think about the Bears selecting Romello Height at 25? Are you excited about the upside and developmental potential? Would you have preferred TJ Parker or gone in a completely different direction? Do you trust our coaching staff to develop Height into the player we need him to be? I want to hear from every single Bears fan watching this. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me if you love this pick or if you think we should have gone another route. This is a community, and your perspective matters just as much as mine. If you want to stay on top of every Bears move, every draft development, every roster decision that impacts this franchise, then you need to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and become part of this community that lives and breathes Bears football every single day. And don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown and share this video with every Bears fan you know. We're building something special here, both on the field and in this community, and I want you to be part of it. I'll see you in the next video with more Bears news and analysis. Bear down!